You're making drawing too complicated. In this beginner-friendly tutorial, I'll share a formula that will help you draw anything, and today anything means cute spring doodles. Welcome back, friends. Come in, grab a cup of tea. My name is Shayda Campbell, and around here we make art, and it's fun, not scary. My goal with this video is to show you how to draw some spring stuff, yes, of course, but also to show you that you can be really whimsical and free in your drawing style and still be very successful. Beginning with our little duck here. I sketched the wing, hint of a tail, and then just surround the wing with his big body. And then his head is quite round and just has a small, thin neck below. Stripe on the neck as well. And then two little legs with just like squarish feet work out beak shape, and his eye is right in line with his beak. And then I just kind of sketch it out until I'm happy with the way it looks. Grab a brush pen. I'm using a Faber-Castell black brush pen. And the nice thing about the brush pen is it has a really fine point, so you can do really thin, delicate lines, but add a bit of pressure and you get a much heavier, thicker line. And each of these doodles will follow the same formula. We start with a pencil guide, we make a messy doodle, and then we clean it up and make it a little more sophisticated with that black brush pen. Struggling to draw these in time with a YouTube video? Yeah, that's okay. That's why I have a worksheet available on my Patreon. Sign up over there for just $3 to get weekly helpful bonus content and make sure these free videos always stay free. Next up, we have strawberries, and this is a great example of the formula. Start with a guide, 2 circles. Circles later become strawberries. Make a messy leaf shape or doodle a simple flower. Don't worry about what it looks like right now. This is just a guide. You're figuring out how big everything is going to be and what general shape it is. Then start to refine the guide. Make that circle into more of a strawberry. Make that oval into more of a leaf shape. And take that simple flower doodle and give it a little more finesse. This step can still be in pencil. For the sake of the video, I'm doing it in pen, but you can refine the guide in pencil and then grab the brush pen. Do what is best for you, and make sure to watch until the end of the tutorial to get a refresher on exactly how that formula will work for any subject. Let's keep going because I got lots of spring doodles to show you. Next up is a pansy. I know I do them all the time, but I love, love, love them, and they're so fun to paint or color. So start with a petal, rounded petal, 2 more sitting in behind, and then 2 more sitting in behind that. And then you can do a little semicircle and some lines going out. Then join them together with a bunch of curving stems. I actually didn't like the way that looked, so I erased and just tried it another way. I recommend doing the middle stem first. That way you'll probably end up with a more balanced drawing. But let's talk about it in black brush pen. You start with that bottom petal, rounded, a bit like a round squarish vibe. 2 more petals in behind, and then 2 more in behind that. Semicircle, little collection of lines going out on those bottom petals. It's a really simple little spring doodle, and of course you can cluster these. This would be perfect on a greeting card or a bullet journal spread. And then work out where those stems are going to sit and how the flowers are going to connect. And then you can do some very, very silly, very whimsical little leaves on these guys too, if you like. I couldn't decide if I wanted that leaf sitting over top of the stem. It was a very big decision, but I thought it looked okay, and I went for it. Okay, let's say that is done, and we will keep going with another flower, the lilac, the beautiful lilac. So up here in the top corner, I'm just doing like the messiest bursts of, it's almost like you're drawing popcorn or cotton candy, and then they are joined with some stems and some leaves. Yeah, let's talk that out again. We're going to do, make the shape first, maybe. That might make it easier, the kind of conical shape, a little bit droopy sort of, and then put the lumps combined with some small blossoms, some small little 4-petal flowers. And I find that's a really fun and very achievable way to doodle a lilac. These are a little bit above doodles, but what I want to show is that you can really just sketch something messy in pencil. And then when you go over it with the brush pen, you can give it just enough like finesse, just enough sophistication that it'll be like, ooh, that's nice. Okay, so moving right along. The next one is a sweet little bunny. You start with a teardrop shape, then a droopy ear sort of curving out slightly on the left, and then one on the right. Maybe he doesn't have quite as much of a curve. They don't come down much lower than our bunny who has a teardrop-shaped head. So the top is a bit smaller, his cheeks are a bit wider. Put a Y shape for his snout and then two little eyes, not much higher than that Y. And then you're going to drop down and put a foot and then two little legs and then finish off the body kind of right by the legs. Let's try this again. I find animals difficult, but that is good, I think. Two legs, finish the body, and then put one foot sitting there. I was trying to get like his chin right. Basically, you want the top of the head not to be pointed like a teardrop, but a bit smaller than the larger rounded chin. So you've got these two little leg shapes in front. They're very undefined, and that goes up and out towards the head, another little foot peeking out, and then let's make his chin. Not all the lines have to connect, like you don't have to have a strong line between the head and the body, maybe just leave it open. And his cute little floppy, droopy ears. And there you have it. He's quite sweet. The little Y shape for his nose, and then keep the eyes very low in relation to that nose. You can put a few little lines to indicate that he's quite fluffy. And let's move along. We just drew a rabbit. What? Okay, next let's keep it easy. A watering can. You're doing a rounded square, handle on the top, handle on the side. Do the little spout. If you have trouble drawing a spout, draw a circle and then turn it into a semicircle. And if you want to, you can put some flowers on there. I just did a clover over there to fill in space. We'll talk about it in a second. So the rounded sort of square for our watering can shape comes in a bit at the top. You've got the spout over here, which is just two lines and then a semicircle. And then if you like, you could like do some sort of design. It could be stripes. In my case, I'm going to do these messy, scribbly little flowers, sort of like daisies, and there's some leaves surrounding them. And then for our clover, our four-leaf clover, you basically just draw like two butterflies right next to one another. So you get this fairly symmetrical clover shape, and give it a stem and some little details on the leaves, and voila. Okay, guys, next up, we are going to do another animal. I know, I'm going crazy today. It looks like a snowman right now, but it will be a chick. So two circles, and then put a wing on that circle. And then we're going to draw a little egg on his head. Give him a little beak, and of course the eyes are quite low in line with the beak. So you can see I like to start with a guide, two circles, and that gives us the chick shape. And then we put the little egg on his head, and then I might put an egg up here. Sometimes I don't like painting eggs. Maybe another clover. This is a little disjointed, but we're just going for it. We're trying to do messy, cute little doodles that don't feel too overwhelming. So draw them in your own style. That is my advice to you. Start with a guide. For the radish, it's just a circle, and then go around and make it a little more heart-shaped. Put this big silly leaf up there. Put the little root. But always start with the guide. The chick started as two circles squished together, and then we went around and gave him a little wing, and then we're using the brush pen to our advantage and just doing these wispy, delicate little lines to make him look fluffy and give him his sweet little feet. And then the nice thing about a page in your sketchbook like this is that it's about learning to draw all these spring things, but it's also about the composition. So I'm trying to make everything look nice together and, put a little clover there or maybe a little egg here. I'm doing my best. Anyways, composition, think about it as you go along. For now, let's leave the drawings alone and get to painting. Today, I'll be using my Shayda Campbell watercolor set. It's this little palette here. And then grab a couple small-ish round brushes like number 6, number 8. It's like chopsticks. Let's have lunch. And if you have the Shayda set, which is available on Amazon in the US, in the UK, hopefully coming to Canada soon, you can use these specific colors, rose madder hue, and then mixed with a little red brown, makes a really vibrant red. And then I put a little white in there as well to start these strawberries off as sort of a dark pink. And then we can always build color. Remember, with watercolor, you want to start light and then build up that color, baby. Who else should we paint? Let's do the lilac. So I used a bit of that rose madder hue mixed with indigo and lots of water and a bit of white to give me this really nice light purple. And then I just mixed in like a hint more indigo or ultramarine so that these two flowers have a slightly different color, and that helps to separate them a little. And then you can mix a little bit more of the magenta or rose madder hue and kind of play around with different shades of purple. The thing I did here is I started making these flowers way too big. I started going outside the lines, which is something I love to do when I'm painting my doodles, but the lilacs just look enormous compared to the other stuff on the page. I lifted a bit of color. I was like, oh, what am I doing? I'm going crazy over here. And then I thought that kind of helped a bit because it was just too heavy. And then I put a little bit of color back on, kind of worked a little wet into wet and just let the darker color seep out into that wet area. Okay, then I wanted to move along to the duck. So I used red brown mixed with a little bit of gray, lots of water in there, and we're painting his belly. Remember, when painting these doodles, things do not have to be filled in perfectly. The lines are there as a guide. I think it looks nice when you kind of offset the color slightly and everything's a little free and whimsical and messy. For this guy's wing, I mixed white and Payne's gray into the brown I already had to give me a nice light gray brown for that wing. And then I used olive green mixed with a little indigo, give a really nice dark green for his head. He's looking so cute now with his coloration. Just make sure not to go too heavy on that green. Give his eye a bit of space. We'll use a blend of white and yellow to fill in our little chick. Again, just using the lines as a guideline and letting everything be a little messy, a little bit wrong, a little wonky. Same thing on the pansy front petal. You can use that light yellow. And then I want to come over to the palette and figure out my green. So I'm using olive green mixed with just a hint of that rose madder hue. Anytime you mix a red into green, because they are opposite on the color wheel, it will help to sort of calm that green down, deaden it slightly. And I am using the green pretty much everywhere that I need green. And what I've done here is just for the pansies, I've added a lot more water. So it is the same color, but it's much lighter. And then on the strawberries, I went quite dark, on the shamrock, I went a little darker so that you have a green that unifies the entire sketchbook composition, but it's not like exactly the same for each. And then for some reason, I grabbed some of more concentrated red and I did a little bit of shading on those strawberries, filled in my radish a little bit. Sorry, I forgot to film on camera 1 for this part, but I did put a little bit of brown on the stem of the lilac, darkened up my duck slightly, and then just mixed in lots of water and a bit of white to have a nice light brown for that egg. Moving right along, I am using a very light purple, so ultramarine with lots of magenta and just a hint of white for those secondary pansy petals, and I added way more white so that they're not all the exact same. You can always be playing around with the colors on the palette, adding a little more white, a little more water, so that everything isn't, exactly the same, even within the same flower or group of flowers. Then went way, way darker on those back petals, so a little more indigo, a little more magenta, lot more indigo. Remember, friends, supplies are linked in the video description. You can get everything that I'm using, and there is a worksheet to go with this video to help you draw all of these cute little spring doodles, step by step by simple step. You know what? When I drew this egg, I thought last year, I think, or the year before, I did an egg and just went so badly. I don't know why, but I always mess around too much with the coloring of eggs and duck eggs. But you saw me doing some lifting there, some stippling. I don't know. Stuff was getting crazy. Once I stepped away from that egg, I decided to take a look at the composition of the overall sketchbook piece, and I wanted to kind of extend the strawberries a little. So I painted another light pink blossom there, did another leaf. I decided the gap here was a bit large, so I thought, why don't I just paint another pansy? And I can do it really loose and then add the black pen later. So this kind of shows that you can do an exercise like this in any order. Start with your simple pencil sketch, then add that really loose layer of paint and finish it off with those black brush pen illustrations that really make everything pop. Okay, grab a light gray-brown, so a little bit of red-brown, little bit of Payne's gray, and lots of white and water. And that's what we're gonna use for our sweet little floppy-eared bunny. I'm sort of painting in the body, keeping the leg area a little lighter, and then we're going to grab a slightly darker mix of that color for his ears and the top of his head. And then again, keeping it a little lighter around his snout. And you can always just do everything light and then come in afterwards with a slightly darker gray for the body, for the ears, that kind of thing. And you can do that while it's wet, or you can wait for it to dry. Painting all these spring things really has me hoping that spring is here to stay. In southern Ontario, where I live, we went from having -15 temperatures 2 weeks ago to being almost +15 as I'm filming and recording this. So we had like 6 feet of snow, maybe more, and now it is all melting. There are grass patches of green grass. I'm like, I think I hear a bird song. It just feels so nice to be done with that really cold part of winter. But I don't know, we've had snow as late as like Mother's Day in these parts. Not usually, but you have to kind of be on guard until May. Anywho, watering can is a light blue-gray. We'll use this bright dark yellow to do the pansy centers, the chick's beak, and then we'll let that dry and we're back to brush pen. We can finish off some of these illustrations that we added with watercolor and finalize our spring doodles sketchbook composition page. Remember, friends, you can draw anything you want, and your own unique style is what makes it interesting to look at. Start with a guide, break that subject down into its main parts. Refine the guide, give it a little more shape, a little finesse, and then go over it with that black brush pen and make it into something really graphic and cool. There is a worksheet available for you right now, patreon.com/Shayda Campbell. It's got everything you need to know to make the cutest little spring doodles, and it's a great way to support this channel, which is so important with the changing landscape of social media. And it's only $3 a month. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon with a new tutorial. Bye.